So, the newest Bloons game has been released and I'm kind of late to that party. What can I say, I've been working on a lot of other stuff. Anywho, Bloons Card Storm is a game where you build a deck of balloons, monkeys, and abilities to combat your opponents, as well as some good old-fashioned gambling. Oh boy, do I love gambling. Kinda getting ahead of myself with that one, actually. I've played the game in both early access and release, I've watched other people play it, and I have some thoughts now, as well as some thoughts about Ninja Kiwi just as a whole, to be honest, both positive and negative. Let's start with the positive thoughts. Unlike other releases, the towers, units, cards, or, well, the entities you use are pretty well balanced as of version 2, and the heroes are pretty well designed in my opinion, to where all of them are equally viable in some capacity and offer some versatility to your gameplay. Although that said, I do know that some people don't like Amilia because she's really OP in aggressive gameplay, but I can't really comment on that because I've never actually experienced this. And another thing, which it did admittedly take them a couple months, but they did add a ranked game mode, which is great because that's something that a lot of people actually wanted because leaderboards are fun. Although, all that said, that's basically the positives. The positives aren't really anything complex, so I don't really have much to say about them, but the negatives are definitely more complicated topics that require a bit more of an explanation. Grind. In a word, grind. This game's main downside is grind. In the beta, we were introduced to a lot of different ways to play the game. A ton of cards to build aggressive builds, defensive builds, control builds, and really anything else you'd want out of a card game. Then the game released, and all of a sudden you have a small selection of cards you get from the tutorial, and to unlock both the cards you had in the beta but also the new ones, you need to grind out in-game currency, of which there are several, and unlock at least one copy of the card in question. And you did hear that right, in case you haven't actually played the game yet, you do just unlock one copy of the card. You don't just like unlock the card and then have a limit as to how many you can use. You have to actively unlock multiple copies of the same card or else you can only use one. It's very grindy and basically expects you to play the game for hours just to be able to make a new deck type or get some cards you think look interesting. The way you get in-game currencies with achievements, quests, feats, and also just winning games, but you can also buy loot boxes, which in this game is called card packs, where you can get a copy of a card as well as an assorted bunch of in-game currencies. This is just not good. They don't exactly give you nothing. You can win with what you have at the start, but the game presents you with a huge range of options that you have to put in hours to unlock. If this was a game where unlocks didn't affect your effectiveness in game, I'd have no problems with the said grind, nor the fact that you don't start out with much. However, this is a multiplayer game, and with the default unlocks you can play aggressively to an extent, you can kinda defend, and you can't really play control at all, really. Meanwhile, unlocks enable you to do things like send balloons around early, making the limited defense you have even harder to work with. You can just straight up remove towers from the board, which isn't very fun when you only have 40 cards to begin with that you have to somewhat reasonably spread between balloons, monkeys, and abilities. And as well, generally speaking, unlocked monkeys and balloons just scale better and have more complex abilities than those of the ones you start with. Really, when it comes down to it, this is a game that just doesn't really respect you as a player. And I do understand that there are people who actually don't take issue with this, and in fact, many people don't, as evidenced by the mostly positive reviews that they've been receiving lately. But as someone who doesn't want to play a game for hours just to be able to play normally, I'm kind of disappointed. If you recall, this is actually kind of exactly what happened with Battles 2 on launch, but a little less egregious. And that is my one note, but still kind of complex to explain negative. I think I'm going to save my thoughts about Ninja Kiwi as a company until another video actually, probably the one after this, if things go well. In summary, I think the game is at its core a balanced game that is well made, assuming you have what you want and need out of it. However, your mileage will vary depending on if you can stand for the grind for better material and cards. So if you're like me and don't really like the grindy mobile game kind of thing, then I can't say I would recommend it. However, if you have something to add, whether it be agreeing, disagreeing, or just have something else to add to the conversation, tell me in the comments. I'm not super enthusiastic about these kinds of games myself, so I'm super biased, but I know many people liked it and still do, but it's just not really for me. But with that said, you can also like the video and subscribe and all that if you enjoyed hearing the rantings of an insane woman. Insert plug about Blue Sky in Discord here. But with that said, I am now going to go to bed. But only after I indulge in a little bit of more of gambling. What?